prefer like, my God, that's so freaking annoying.
You try using Teams.
I have. I actually like it over Zoom. I don't remember how to go full screen. We're just going to deal with this right now. There we go. I'm failing a lot today.
Very good. In terms of questions and things like that, I'll pause every once in a while and be like, anybody got any questions? Because this can get a little bit confusing and can be a lot to take in, especially in, an hour ish of time. So I will pause from time to time just to make sure we're all on the same page, all tracking. And I'm going to keep it very open source friendly. This is not a sales pitch. I'm not a sales guy. Yes, Chocolatey for Business is a thing. Yes, there are a whole bunch of really cool tools that you can buy from us to make Chocolatey that much more better for your organization. I hate doing that, especially for a user group talk. That's not the point. If you like Chocolatey and you use Chocolatey and you discover it from the open source side, and then you're like, well, I wonder if the business could benefit from it. If you come to us organically that way, that's awesome. So we're going to dive right in. And for those of you that aren't familiar with I cannot share my screen.
Oh, let me turn that on. I always forget.
Fired.
I'm fired. I mean,
Fired.
You can go for that. Try it now, man.
I mean, there was going to be t-shirts, but not now. No.
My pay is cost me.
Let's see. All right. There we go. That's better. Can everybody this let me get rid of this meeting controls thing. There we go. Can everybody see my screen? This chocolatey.org homepage.
Oh yeah.
So
Sure.
Chocolatey is the package manager for Windows. And if y'all don't mind, I'm going to flip it over to dark mode because the white hurts my eyes.
Thank God.
So package manager for Windows, we've been around for a really long time. We're coming up on our 12th year as an open source project, as an open source tool. And we're really, really proud of that fact. We're also really, really proud of the fact that we've got the largest collection of packages for Windows. Our community repository, if I flip to this tab and make it dark as well, we've got over 10,000 packages available on our community repository. So if there's a piece of software out there that you need, probably we've got it, unless it's something like AutoCAD or SolidWorks or MATLAB or, the stuff you pay for that's licensed. But if there's a free version of something available, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find it on our community repository. And if you can't, that doesn't matter. You can package anything you want. And that's where we're going to start tonight, is to really understand Chocolatey at that level. How can you really leverage this tool both for yourself at home and in your organization? So we're going to build some packages. We're going to talk about the different features, and hopefully we're going to have a lot of fun doing it as well. So the first thing we're going to do is just look at a couple of different things. I'm going to use VS Code. And what I'm going to do is open this lots of full. Oh, I have to refresh my browser because refresh my shell because I just installed it. CD documents. There we go. That's better. So I've installed a couple things. VS Code. I've installed the PowerShell extension for VS Code. I've also installed the Chocolatey extension for VS Code, which makes it really, really easy to create packages from scratch. So I'm going to Control-Shift-P, or you can go up here to View and Command Palette if you want to, whichever way you want to get to it. Type Chocolatey. I already typed it, so I'm going to say create new package, and you're going to give that package an ID. This ID is what you're going to use later when you say like Choco install Foo or Bob or whatever it's going to be. In our case, I want to use 7-zip as our first basic example. And I'm just going to say the default template is fine. And that's going to go out and that's going to actually generate our package for us. And if we look over here in our Explorer window, now we've got this 7-zip folder and all the stuff that goes along with it. Now, the standard template gives you a bunch of instructions and things like that that you don't really need. But if you're going to like check the packaging into source control, like GitHub or GitLab or whatever you use, having a README on the repository is a good thing, right? So we give you one of those. If you want to just check this into source control directly, you've already got your README. I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to start deleting things. This new spec file is actually the metadata about the package, and we'll show you a little bit better what that is useful for later. The to-do file, this is basically your instruction sheet. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Tons of information in here. And then in our tools folder is where all the guts of things live, right? So we've got our install script, which is used anytime you run Choco install. The before modify script is used when you run Choco upgrade. And then the uninstall script is used when you uninstall a particular package. And you'll notice it's all just PowerShell. Chocolatey is built from the ground up on top of PowerShell, which makes this an insanely powerful tool to use in your organizations and at home, because a Chocolatey package, while mainly used to install software, that's what it's most known for. It doesn't have to install software at all. It can be a package that just does configuration on the system. And the benefits of that are super, super great too, in terms of, you can version this package and then report on that package being installed later. So you can kind of get that holistic picture of, well, I know I've got this configuration on this box at version 1.0 because the package is installed, and 6 months down the road, the configuration has to change. So you modify the package, you increment the version to 2.0 or 1.x or whatever it is, right? And then you publish that package to your repository. And based on your reporting, you now see everywhere that package is outdated. So you know that all of these machines have configuration drift. They need to have an upgrade performed on them. On the business side, we have a bunch of tools that make that really, really easy. But from the open source standpoint, you can still get that same information. You can still run Choco outdated. You can still run Choco list dash dash audit to get that audit information. It's just up to you to do something with the data as well. We'll give it all to you, but there's no tooling around any of it. You kind of have to make your own stuff or pipe it into a different sim or whatever you want to do, right? So for our purposes here, one of the nice things about Chocolatey, it knows how to uninstall something automatically. So 9 times out of 10, as long as it's an installer type package, you're installing a piece of software, you don't need to worry about uninstalling it. Chocolatey will just magically know how to do it and take care of it for you. You don't need an uninstall script. Before modify scripts, for our purposes, we're not going to use one. But depending on the piece of software or what you're doing, this is going to run before the new version of the installer runs. So if you need to like back up some files or do any kind of work prior to the piece of software being upgraded, you do that work here in this before modify script. That way, when Chocolatey is upgrading that piece of software, you can rest assured that any configuration that needs to be reapplied post upgrade or any data that needs to be put back post upgrade will be handled because the before modify script has backed that stuff up. And then you can, in your install script, after the install has ran, that's where you would go ahead and put that stuff back. So for our purposes, we're going to take this basic Chocolatey installed on PS1. It's very, very, very verbose and self-documenting in terms of what you need to do in all the different places and a whole bunch of different helper functions. I'm going to show you where all that stuff is on our website. after we're done here. So I'm going to get rid of all this goodness in here. And we even give you instructions at the top on how you can run some PowerShell code to take care of getting rid of all these comments. But really, it's just as easy to go here real quick and do this. Now, there are two flavors of a chocolatey package. One is an embedded package, and one is what we see here. And this is the lion's share of what's available on the community repositories done this way because of redistribution rights on the binaries, right? Google Chrome will get really, really mad if you've got 10,000 machines in your environment reaching out to Google Chrome's installers directly. But from a community standpoint, it's fine. If you're a home user, you have that one machine, you go out and it contacts Google servers and downloads the binary and it runs it, that's fine. But the license around the binary is also prohibitive, and that I can't just redistribute that as Chocolatey, right? Chocolatey cannot host the Google Chrome binary. That goes against a whole bunch of different redistribution rights and things like that. We don't want lawyers mad at us, so we don't allow that on the community repository. If you're using your own packages in your organization, or you host your own server at home and you download that binary and you bundle it into the package, totally fine. That's a whole different set of rules. But that's the difference between an embedded package and a regular Chocolatey package like you would see on the community repository, and what we're going to build here. Embedded has the installer it needs in it, and this other kind doesn't. So we need a couple pieces of information to make this package useful. And since we're doing 7-zip, what we'll do is go here and grab the 7-zip download URL. Here, that's fine. And let's use the MSIs since that's the easiest thing. And I'm just going to right click this and copy this 64-bit link. And we'll put it there. And I think the 32-bit link is literally the same thing. It's just x86, but.
So I have a dumb question for you.
Sure.
So those links are version. One thing I'm actually just kind of curious about, from especially like the community packages, how hard is it to find the universal, this is the latest?
So from a Chocolatey community repositories point of view, the latest version available is going to be the thing you get by default. So when you say Choco install Google Chrome, that's going to be the latest version of that package that's available. And a lot of these packages are hosted by the Chocolatey community. We've got a whole GitHub with like a whole bunch of packages that are automatically updating. So typically within 24 hours of Google Chrome releasing a patch or a new version, it's approved and on the community repository. So on that side of things, there's automation that's running that makes sure that this stuff that's super, super, super popular that everybody uses is pretty much within 24 hours, the correct version. And some of the less popular stuff, it takes a little bit longer. I will say that if you're a brand new maintainer going to publish a piece of software to the community repository, it could take up to a month or two for it to be approved in that first version put onto the repository, just because this is all run by volunteers, right? This is Chocolatey doesn't support this at all. There's no SLA around this. This is for you, by you, but we maintain it all. Like the bill to keep the lights on this thing is insane, but it's really, really important to the community, and the community is really, really important to us, right? Like we build ourselves off the backs of you guys. So We strive really, really hard to make the community repository the best it can be, and it's really, really busy. There's a lot of stuff going on through package moderation, and that's why it takes so long for a package to, for the first time, show up on the community repository. But once it's, got a version or two up there, that we trust the maintainer, we make the process a little easier, and things become faster and faster and faster, up into the point that they're auto approved and they show up on the site as soon as the verification process is done. So it does get faster and faster and faster the more popular packages get. But if it's some obscure piece of software, you might be seeing a version or two behind on the community repository. But for the really important stuff, it's right there pretty much same day. Does that answer the question?
Yeah,
I
it
hope
does.
that answers. Okay, cool. So we need a couple pieces of information. We need to check some of these files because if we're downloading files, we require checksums because security is super important. So what I'm going to do is say copy this path, come over here, get file hash. I'm going to grab this hash. And this is not the 32-bit one. Okay. That. And then we'll do the exact same thing for this one. Why did I do literally the same? I did do literally the same file, didn't I? Sorry about that. There we go. That looks better. All right. Perfect. And all right. Now, for an MSI, those are pretty bog standard silent arguments. We also need to tell it what file type it is. If it's an MSI, this tells Chocolatey to, under the hood, call MSI exec. And so it's saying we've got the bog standard MSI silent arguments here. If you know and are building your own packages and there's additional silent arguments you need to use, you can absolutely put them in here. You would just add them to in here, whatever that needed to be. You can pass those along. So you can have license keys, database connection strings, whatever it needs to be passed to the installer. You can add those to the silent args and we'll take care of the rest. You can even use, and this gets into the weeds a little bit, but package parameters. You can also extend a package with those as well. Typically, you'll see that package parameters, it's like you'll see it $PP equals get package parameters. And basically, this is just a hash table. So key value pairs of things that are passed on the command line. So if you have an example like on this demo server, I upgraded central management earlier. So this is an example of package parameters. So this server piece here, or rather this connection string here, became the key inside of the hash table. And everything over here, this server equals localhost, well, this connection string became the value inside of that hash table. And then I was able to later on reference that data inside of the install script, like you normally would, right? A hash table. So once it's in that format, you could do something like pp, and in that example it would be connection string, something like that, and that would get the value. So you could add license like perhaps maybe down here, this had a license. So you could say like license equals, and then just do PowerShell-y things. Right? Or license key. Let's call it license ID. Right. So that would pass in the value from the package parameter into the install arguments when you're running the installer. And because this is package parameter sensitive, the only place you're ever going to see it is right here on the screen here. We don't pass it into logs anywhere. We don't expose it anywhere but right here, because you kind of have to see it in plain text here. There's really no way around that. But that's using package parameters as well. I keep hitting escape, so I'm going to move these meeting controls over to my other screen. So that is package parameters, and with that, we've got everything we need to make this package, right? So that's our install script. We're done. Otherwise, let me delete these files as well. And then we'll go to the new spec file next. That's that package metadata. So we look in here, this is all the stuff about the package, right? This is where all of your title, author, description information comes from. And where that is really apparent and really important is on the community repository. So if we look out here and we say Adobe Acrobat Reader DC, all of that new spec information has been surfaced right here. This is coming from the title. This is the version information. Things like the tags show up over here. Software specific information, package specific information, all of these links, those are all defined in the new spec. The description, also defined in that new spec file, supports Markdown. So renders really, really pretty on the community repository. And it gives a lot of detailed information on how you can control the installation of this package. Here's all the different package parameters that you can use, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what that new spec file is for. So for us, we're just going to kind of lie and make some stuff up. 7-zip, but install me. And this stuff can all go away because we're not going to put it on the community repository. We're not going to do any dependencies. And we'll just say what installs 7-zip, right? And then let's go over here. And then we'll just do the same description. 7-zip. That looks good. All good. Just want to get rid of those, and we'll put archive as well. That sounds like fun. All right. All right. So once you've got everything completed here, you've got your new spec filled out, you've got your PowerShell code written, you've got everything in there that you need. You're ready to compile your Chocolatey package, create the artifact, right? So we can do that again. Control Shift P. Control Shift P. Why is it not?
It wants me to shoot.
Yeah, apparently. Control Shift P. Thank you. Now we're going to say pack the Chocolatey package. And the extension is going to look through this. If you've got a whole tree of packages, it'll recursively go through and ask you which new spec you want. So you can select if there are multiple. I'm just going to select that. If you want any additional arguments, I don't. So we're just going to hit enter. And then down here, you can see we're going to build this package. It's going to build really, really quick because there's no binaries in it. Here is our finished package, and we can look in File Explorer. Super, super cool. And then full disclosure, I'm going to cheat because I have the licensed version of Chocolatey installed here. I don't want to run the push command. I'm going to right click and say push the Chocolatey package, which is going to give me a UI to do it. And then I'm going to select the source. I'm going to drop this down, and then I am going to, yeah, I'll just push it there. That's fine. So we're going to go up there. So now package pushed successfully. So that's it. That's creating an install package, right? That installs a piece of software. But like I said, it's just PowerShell in here. It can do anything you want. And if we wanted to, we could come over here and we could say Choco install 7-zip-y. And I am going to say Chocolatey internal is where I want it to come from. And it'll go up and it should go out and download the 7-zip version, the 64-bit version. Did I grab the wrong checksum? I bet you I grabbed the wrong checksum.
That didn't happen.
Lab demos.
Yeah.
Copied the X64 into the X30, X86.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Up top on your package parameters.
Oh, oops. Yeah, look at that.
Actually,
Oops.
the interesting
It's-
point though, and this is just more Windows, but it should have
Yeah.
installed the 64-bit version.
It should have, yeah. And actually there's a helper function available. It's not doing it. If you use Chocolatey for Business, it will do the right thing. It'll be different. And actually, let's just do that. Let's delete this and let's rename this just so you can see the difference. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say create chocolate package here. And then actually, no, I do that every single time. I want this one. I'm used to only doing it with one. There we go, 64, do that. And I'm not going to change anything here. I'm just going to let it happen. Click generate. There we go. So I'll just let Chocolatey make the package for me. And now if we look at our install scripts and let's just edit it. So we add some stuff to check the license and make sure you're running on a licensed version. But what we do is say get processor bit 64, or we check to make sure you haven't forced x86, and then we do the right thing with the file. You're either doing 32-bit or 64-bit at that point, and then we write all the code for you. So that's kind of what it looks like. To use the helper functions to detect the bitness and make the right one. So basically you've got file location and file location 64. If we're doing any of that force or anything like that, or if it detects the bitness, it'll switch everything over and make the file location point to this file location 64 variable. And then that way none of this down here has to change. It's just make sure that file location is set correctly up top, and then this is always going to be right. And again, same rules apply in terms of if you need to pass additional arguments or anything like that, you can do that kind of stuff with the UI if you want to. There's different, and just to show that UI again, there are places here where you can do that sort of stuff. Add those additional arguments here. We'll add them to the stuff that we detect. Or if you want to, play God mode and be like, I know exactly what I need to run to be successful. Put them here and click this button, and we'll do that, right? But make sure you're right, because otherwise you might have errors, or you might have a pop-up window that comes up. It's not completely silent. So make sure you're right before you go telling us not to detect the silent arguments, because Otherwise, it might not be a fun time. But that's kind of building packages using the business version of Chocolatey as well. And again, here's that finished Chocolatey package to upload. This one is actually the correct version based on the installer because we detected the version as well. But you can do other cool stuff with the business version too. I don't know how many of y'all use Intune, but you can convert a package to an Intune package and then publish that to your Intune tenant, and then push that Chocolatey package out using company portal or whatever. I'm not set up to be able to do any of that stuff tonight for the demo here. I don't have an Intune tenant spun up or anything like that, so I can't show it off. But that is something you can do on the business side of things. That way you don't have to use something like PSADT or a bunch of weird PowerShell scripts to do Chocolatey and Intune. We have a native integration that makes it really simple for you guys to do that. Was there a question?
Yeah. But you can run it, your own PowerShell commands in it as well, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And then do I really want to get that far into the weeds?
The
I mean, I'm
answer
thinking
is
like if statements, like, yeah. I mean,
Oh yeah. Again, this is literally just PowerShell, so it can get as complex as you need to. Chocolatey also has some pretty powerful features in it that hardly anybody uses, and it really makes me sad. One of those things, if we look in here, I do have some. There's this extensions folder, which if you look in here, we've got all these different extensions. These are basically just PowerShell modules. So if you look inside of here, we've got a PSM1 file, and then all of these other PS1 files. Basically, it's kind of done the way you would expect to develop a module, a PS1 file per function that you're writing, to kind of split things up and make things easier to develop and then easier to maintain going forward. Same kind of best practice stuff when you're writing an extension. Treat it like it's a module, PSM1 files, PSD1 files, whatever. It is in effect a PowerShell module. That is the Chocolatey extension. The nice thing about them being in the extensions folder, Chocolatey loads them every single time you run an operation, like Choco install, Choco upgrade, Choco uninstall. So if you're going to do some complex things, like maybe you've got very specific helper functions that you use a lot that you would want to use in your packaging, and you're tired of like shipping a helpers file in your packages, right? Because it's totally valid, and I see this all the time. Somebody will come in here and they'll put a helpers.ps1 file in here, and they'll have PowerShell code in here, whatever that the code's going to do, right? So it's PowerShell in here, fine. And then over here in their Chocolatey install, what they'll do is they'll say helpers equals join path toolster child path helpers.ps1, and then they'll load it, right? And that's how they'll load their helper functions into the package. And that's fine. That works. But that only works for this particular package. You've only shipped that helper function with this particular package. If you're going to use the same helper function over and over and over again in a bunch of packages, it makes sense to move it to an extension. And then in your new spec file, come down here and say dependencies. and then dependency ID equals my dot extension, whatever it is. And then let Chocolatey handle it. If the system doesn't have the extension installed, Chocolatey will make sure it's installed by resolving the dependency. And then when the package installation kicks off, Chocolatey loads all the extension modules, and it's got that helper function, and it's done all the work for you. And that allows you to treat your PowerShell extension as a module, version it appropriately, et cetera, and then tightly control the version of the dependency inside of your package, right? You might have a particular version of the extension that works with a certain package, but there's a newer version of the extension that works with other stuff. So you can kind of gate inside of each of the packages what version of the extension gets installed, and like Chocolatey control all that for you. So it gets really complex, but it also gets really, really powerful at the same time. So extensions are by far probably one of my favorite features of Chocolatey that hardly anybody uses. Another one that nobody hardly uses, mostly because they're brand new, really, and not a lot of people have exposure to them yet, are hooks. So you can now do pre and post install hooks. So before a package install or upgrade happens or an uninstall happens, you can have a hook that runs, and then you can also have it run post. And you can have hooks that are global that run for every single package, no matter what it is, or you can have package specific hooks that only run for, say, Google Chrome or Java or whatever the case may be. You can make very specific hooks. So that's a new thing that's just come around. Super, super awesome, super powerful. If you use Chocolatey, play with hooks and give us feedback, because they're, like I said, they're brand new, but they're super fun. And I'm going to stop talking for a second and see if there's any questions, because this is a fire hose.
Curious on the hooks, like a
Mhm.
example use case.
So one of the really popular hooks that's out there is one that removes all desktop shortcuts. So it takes a snapshot of the desktop pre everything happening, and then post happening, any links that are there now that weren't there before, it gets rid of them. I made just a proof of concept hook that runs after every package, that if I come in here and I put a test folder in here, and then I come in here and I say package dot test dot ps1, and I write a bunch of pester tests to validate that the package did what it was supposed to do. The hook runs the pester tests, and if any of the tests fail, it rolls back the changes that the package might have done. So while it's true that you should test your packages before you roll them out to production, so like overarchingly, they're good to go and they interact with all the different pieces of software that might be installed on a box and all that good stuff. It's also prudent that even in the case of a successful package install, that things did actually go according to plan, because sometimes things don't work even though it said they did. So by having this very specific pester test run post package install, you can really, really guarantee that things went according to plan. But you could have hooks that you could do all your extra configuration for, like firewall rules or dealing with services or anything of that nature, in a hook package rather than in the package itself. The use cases for hooks are pretty broad and kind of up to only your imagination, right? Like a hook can be as powerful as you may want to make it. They're pretty cool.
So when it comes to people using this, are you seeing people using this more individually by itself? Or are you seeing them use it with Intune or Ansible or some other, like how do you see people using this in networks?
So from an organizational standpoint, pretty much everybody uses something, whether that's Puppet, whether that's Ansible, whether that's SCCM, whether that's Intune. Um, it's a really, really broad mix, or a really, really big mix of what we see. We see a lot of Ansible. There's a lot of Ansible shops using Chocolatey. Um, there's a lot of shops that are using Intune or wanting to use Intune. Um, and this is not me being a sales guy. Once they use Intune and then try our central management things side by side, they tend to come back to us and use central management over the Intune stuff for managing software. Mostly because they like the debug experience that central management gives them. This will allow you to do deployments to your endpoints on your network. And there's two different flavors of step. And we can just walk through one really quick. Just create a deployment real quick to show you guys. There's two different kinds of steps. You can do a basic step, which allows you to do Choco install, upgrade, and uninstall. Pretty standard stuff. So if I wanted to put like, I don't know, let me say Firefox on the system, right? Show me. So that's all good. We could do that. And then say target groups. I'm just going to use this automatic group here and call that good. Click save. And we've got that step right. And I can edit it and I can say this is install Firefox. That's fine. Make it a little clearer so we know what is going on. And then we can add a step. This step can be PowerShell. We say advanced. Can be any PowerShell you want. So you can say get service sort object, for example. And then you can even do secrets inside of here as well. So if you've got like a username and password that you need to use inside of the script, you could have all the code to build that credential object in here, but pull the password for the account in via a secret and then build the credential inside of the script. That way because there's no way to like store an actual credential inside of here, you'd have to build it with code. But with the sensitive variables, you could store at least the username and password securely, and then just build the credential on your own, or a license key or a connection string or whatever it is. It kind of works the same way a pipeline does, like a GitHub action or an Azure DevOps pipeline would.
So is this your own Chocolatey server then? Is that what I'm seeing from the URL?
Yeah. This is my box. So we can go to select target groups. Again, I'm just going to select this all computers group. I don't have any others made. But if I had a different group, I could target a completely different group of machines per step. So you can really mix and match and really do like orchestrations at that point. We do a demo all the time of taking down a website and updating a server farm, like an IIS website, across a couple of nodes as a step, and use a package for that. And just, copy item, put the website files where they need to go on disk, and you're done. And then we have another step that upgrades a database schema against a bunch of SQL databases. And then other steps that, again, target the web servers to turn the websites back on. So we're, mixing and matching target groups and basic steps and advanced steps to run PowerShell to upgrade this website with a database backend. And we do it in a single deployment. So we could name the deployment something like, hey, upgrade, this web app, whatever it is, fancy web app, and then have all those steps put together. And you can schedule it to run later. into the future. You can do it during a maintenance window if you want to. And then you can also schedule repeat periods. So you can have like, daily, weekly, every 2 weeks, whatever that repeat period is that you want. And at that point, you can really set it and forget it. In terms of keeping things up to date. We have a lot of customers that do that for their third party stuff, right? So they'll come in here and they'll say, install Firefox, install Google Chrome, install Java, install 7-zip, install VS Code, all the third party stuff that they care about. And then those individual steps are targeting groups that they're maintaining. And you can do a lot of cool things with the groups as well. But that's deployments in a nutshell. We recently added the ability to export them. So once you're happy with this deployment, you can export this to a JSON file, and that'll allow you to store it in source control. And then later, if you wanted to, you could edit that deployment as code, that JSON file in source control, do a PR, go through a review process, all this stuff. And then couple of weeks ago, I built a GitHub action that when you merge a PR of a deployment plan, like say you updated something in the deployment plan and you've gone through that and you've merged the PR back into master, it automatically uploads the deployment plan into central management via the API. So you can do everything as code. It gets super, super powerful, especially if you like PowerShell and aren't afraid of APIs to use PowerShell with them. You can do a lot of cool stuff in central management with the API because actually everything in central management is driven by an API. The API was first, and the UI was written on top of it. So it's pretty powerful stuff.
Now, I see you've got a managed computer count. Does that mean you can push from your central?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Just want to talk to a sales guy.
We're getting there.
In the hooks, can you use the hooks or some other routine to get compliance connect kind of logic going?
You potentially, yeah. I don't see why you couldn't do something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So computers, let's see. This is a full disclosure. I haven't played with the latest version 0.12.0 of central management very much, because it just came out like last week and I've been super busy. But I know that if we go to the demo server here and we look at all the software here, like for example, this one, you can actually, do I need to give myself a permission to do this? I might have to give myself a permission to do this. Give me a second. Let me see. Here it is. Here it is. So on this actions tab here, I can say upgrade outdated software. And it automatically builds the deployment plan of all the pieces of software that are outdated on that machine for me. So I can hit save and then it's ready for me. So now if I hit save and go to deployment plans, there's that deployment plan that I just created. So now I can go in here and schedule this, or I can move it to ready. And then I can trigger to run it now. Now, obviously, I'm not going to update all this stuff right now, but I could. So that's the latest feature. And I think we also did it over here as well. Yeah. So Microsoft Edge, you can say upgrade, and it'll warn you.
So you're totally gonna hate this comment, but it's like a light version of Tanium, but I love it.
Yeah. Yep. We keep central management is like the thing that we're pumping all of our time into. This is where we're adding the most features at the minute. Mostly because Chocolatey CLI is kind of feature complete. It does what a package manager should do. There's more to it that we want to add, of course. But we haven't given central management the love that it deserves recently. And I've been pummeling development with feature requests, so they're trying to play catch up. And it's finally in a really good place. Like I'm really, really proud of where central management is. So yeah, the one thing that you can't do with it yet is enroll a brand new computer into the product. You still have to go to that machine and run a PowerShell script to enroll it, or do something to run a PowerShell script to enroll it. That's the big thing that I'm pushing for. Hopefully it's coming. I have a feeling that I'm winning that battle now. And we're going to see that land inside of here. But it would be really nice that these are all the computers that are currently reporting into central management. Give me the ability to do a network scan, find the computers that I'm not managing, and click a button to enroll them. That's what I want to see happen. That's my personal Steviecoaster's next big thing is the go gadget button. That would be awesome. But everything else it's really, really nice. Groups is another thing that's about to get another facelift. So we can now do it. All of that work that you just saw me do to click those buttons and automatically create those deployment plans. We were dynamically generating groups based on that. But we had to write all the code to do that work. But now that all that code is written, we're going to have the ability to come in here and create what I call smart groups. So you can come in here and define rules that would say, okay, anytime a machine checks in and it's got an outdated version of Microsoft Edge on it, add it to this group over here called Microsoft Edge Outdated. And basically there are filters on the group that it takes into account logic that the agent is reporting. So you can do things like, hey, I want to run a deployment against all these machines that have only 30% disk space left, and run an advanced step that cleans up a bunch of disk space on those machines. That way, when the step runs and it's successful and they check back into central management, they now have a whole bunch of free space. They fall out of that group because they don't satisfy the filter anymore. So we're to the point where we can implement that feature now that we have the automatic stuff happening, where you can come in here and click on actions and say upgrade or create a new deployment plan based on this computer. And the next version also is going to have, these are going to be like checkable. You can check a box, so you can have like a couple of them that you select and then say upgrade or whatever. So that's coming as well. So central management is the next big thing. But like I said, I'm trying not to be a sales guy. So that's about all I'll say on that stuff. Unless you want to hear more, that's fine. But it's also pushing 8 o'clock. So being cognizant of your time. Do we have any questions? And I'll wrap up.
Any questions in the back?
I got too many questions to answer in this meeting.
Well, I've got at least one of them.
Can I deploy a SharePoint site using Chocolatey?
Well, the first answer is don't use SharePoint.
Yeah, the first rule. Yeah, what is it? The first rule of fight? No, probably. I've never touched SharePoint in my life, so I don't know what goes into it. But I'm going to say probably.
I clone them at the moment in PowerShell, and it's not so graceful. I have to do stupid things like, for whatever reason, it duplicates all of the navigation items, throw them into a dictionary, and sort them out and re-put them where they're supposed to be. So I'm looking for a better solution to that.
So there'll be a chat GPT for that.
Yeah, I'm going to say you probably could.
Okay, I'll give it a look.
Because central management is just PowerShell. Like a Chocolatey package is just PowerShell. So that's great. And then on top of that, central management has those advanced steps that are also just PowerShell. So you probably could.
Okay, Sweet deal.
Other questions? If not, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stephen. So that's it for this evening. I think we've got, we're gonna gather together afterwards and head to some kind of establishment or watering hole or